Welcome back to the show, Jesus.
Hey.
So you were on, I don't know, probably like a year ago, and I think you only had a couple weeks sober that time.
Yep.
Did you go through a relapse?
I did. So I was in sober living at the time at our last interview, and in that time period, I had gotten into a very abusive relationship, and I just started sinking. So I mean, it all started with that person had come over with like a glass of wine, and was like, "Hey, no, just have one. It's okay. I know you can control yourself." And I kind of agreed, even though I knew I couldn't. And it just went really downhill from there. So I was sober for a couple of months, actually, at the time. And I don't know. So I just started, I think towards the end of March, it turned into a full-blown binge, right? And at the end of March, on the 31st, I remember getting off of work. I don't very much remember anything about that day, but I remember getting off of work, laying down, I lit a cigarette, and then I woke up in a hospital after smashing into 3 vehicles. I have surgery. I don't know if you want to hear more about that, but I go and I have surgery, and I get back to the sober living place, and there's 2 entire bottles of vodka gone that I had drank before getting in that car. So
you got into an accident with 3 different cars?
Yeah, so I guess the story went, because again, I don't remember anything that happened, but I guess the story goes I'd taken an Ambien because I wasn't sleeping due to, the sobriety. And apparently I got in the car. My assumption is I was either trying to go get cigarettes. I don't really know what happened, but driving on the wrong side of the road, smashed into one car, kept trying to go. And then it looks like I tried to kind of like pull the car over to the side. And then when I tried to do that, I smashed into a parked vehicle and smashed that parked vehicle into another one. So, and this accident happened in March, and I just now found out what even happened, I think last week. So.
Did you take it, did you get hurt at all?
Oh yeah. So you'll see these lovely scars that weren't there the last time we spoke.
Oh, on your forehead.
So, yeah, kissed the windshield pretty hard. Shattered my hip, so that's made of metal now. Broke 6 ribs. And my blood alcohol level was almost 400. So I pretty much almost killed myself. I have no idea how I made it.
Yeah, I mean, and especially getting broken ribs, you can't do much for that shit.
No, and actually it was the worst because, the surgery, helped repair a little bit of it. I don't know how to explain this, but it hurt a little bit less. The ribs were miserable. I could not breathe for weeks. So, I mean, it was fine. I could take like some Norco or whatever for my hip, and that was okay. But my ribs, man, that was the worst. I think I wouldn't wish that on anybody.
Did you get in trouble, like, law-wise for all those accidents?
Absolutely. 5 days after I left the hospital, I get a phone call that I have a warrant. And, I already saw that coming. And I deserved it. But, still a piece of me kind of hoped that nobody kind of, noticed. Of course they did. But I get a phone call. So I'm in a walker. I still can't really walk well. Face is all smashed up, scabbed over, and go and turn myself in. And I got out like 2 hours later because the police took one look at me and they're like, "Dude, do you have a bondsman?" I said, "Yes." They said, "All right, get in here. Let's just get this over with." And then I was already on probation. So my probation officer's like, "Glad you got that over with. Obviously, I need to see you." And so, again, I go to probation and I walk into her office and they once again handcuffed me to my walker and they said, "Nope, you're going right back." So I had to spend a little bit of time in there, but I was able to get out. So, and it's true. I have absolutely no self-control when I'm drunk, emotionally, physically, in any concept of the word control, I have none. I lose it all. And I was just talking to someone the other day where I was talking about this topic in by itself, and I remember looking at him and I'm like, I can't even picture myself that angry anymore. Like, I just cannot be that angry naturally. You know what I mean? So
yeah,
it's definitely a difference there.
yeah. So, you get in trouble for that. How have you been without a drink since?
Yeah, not one drop. I don't know. I like to say that the windshield, it smacked some sense into me, kind of thing. At first, it didn't feel deserved, because so when I got out of jail, I went to court, and they put me on alcohol monitoring. So I have to carry around a breathalyzer now, and I have to blow into it 6 times a day. So it's not like an interlock where it's in your car. It is actually, it's right next to me. So it's this thing right here. So I have to carry this around since that accident occurred. And so for the first 60 or so days, it didn't feel earned. You know what I mean? It didn't feel like, I felt like I was only sober because I was forced to be. But, every time I get a craving, or, it's just been a bad day, and I'll say, damn, I really want to drink. My brain goes back to that accident, and then, it completely kills any desire to drink that I have. And it's not even the concept that, that I was drunk and I did something and I almost killed myself. It's more like I got drunk and then almost killed someone else is what gets me, because if it was me, I don't care. I was already miserable. Things were not going well in my life. Had I died that night, I like to think probably for the better, right? But the idea that I could have killed someone else, as a result of my decisions, because I can't control myself, is a little bit too much.
Yeah. Well, let's backtrack for people that didn't see your first episode. Where are you from?
Puerto Rico, but I live in Colorado.
Okay, you were born in Puerto Rico?
Yes, I was.
When did you move over here?
My dad was in the military, so we moved around a lot. I think I moved here the first time in 2007.
How old were you then? I mean,
I think I was 10 years old, I believe. 10 or 11.
So you spent your first 10 years in Puerto Rico then?
No, all over the world. So, yeah, all over the world. So I moved here actually from Germany. We spent a lot of time in Germany. My dad was a sapper in the U.S. Army, so when everything was popping off in Iraq, Afghanistan, they needed him over there. And then in true sapper fashion, he blows himself up. So they brought us back here. This is where they wanted us. So we've been here ever since.
How old were you when your dad passed?
He's still alive. He just, I like to tell people he didn't come home in one piece.
You what?
I like to tell people he just didn't come home in one piece.
Yeah. Okay, well, at least he's still alive then.
Right.
Because that could have been way worse and more traumatic. Now you're in Colorado. Are you smoking at all? I know it's cigarette, but I mean, do you use cannabis at all? Because Colorado is such a big pro-cannabis state.
So after the accident, sorry I interrupted you, but after the accident, before the accident, I really didn't smoke at all. And the alternatives for pain were few and far between. So I did start smoking after the accident, which is weird. So I used to not smoke, mostly because it made me really anxious. I'm sure a lot of people can relate that weed makes them really, really anxious. But after the accident, it stopped. Like it just stopped. I could smoke. I would rip dabs all day long with zero problems. So I find that to be a blessing, but definitely use cannabis now, especially for pain. Or if I just don't want to be sober, it's a much better alternative.
Yeah, because the reactions are different for your body.
Right.
So you grew up there. Did you have any brothers and sisters, or were you an only child?
I have 10 siblings, I believe.
You believe?
Yeah, I lose count. So I do have, I think, 4 brothers, 5 brothers, and 5 sisters. I think it's evenly split down the middle.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
Where do you fall on that tree? Younger, older, middle?
I'm actually the oldest, so I was the first. Yeah.
The oldest of 11?
Yeah, my parents essentially, I mean, Puerto Rico is not a very wealthy place, so, sometimes the only way to leave is to join the army.
The only way to what?
Joining the army, the only way to leave.
Yeah. Were you what's the age gap between the youngest and you?
They had them pretty much back to back, because my brothers actually were the same age for 2 days every year. So it was me, then immediately my brother, and then I think they waited 2 years and had my other brother, and then another brother in like 2001 or something like that. So they had them pretty much back to back.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
That's a rough Christmas time for gifts.
We didn't have shit for Christmas, I can tell you that much.
Yeah. I can imagine being a parent with 10 kids to buy for.
Well, that's the decision they made, so we just have to pay for it. Right?
Are you still close with them now?
I am now. My mother found God. They were both what is that called? Opiate addicts. So Dad came back from Iraq, and they just fed him pills the entire time. They just said, you know what, we don't want to deal with you. We're just here's some pills. Have a nice day.
And that's back when OxyContin was like everywhere.
Yeah, and then they obviously my mom got into it eventually, and that was just a rough childhood for me after that. So Mom found God. She's on methadone now, but my dad's been sober for several years, and I mean, it's improved drastically. I mean, 5 years ago, I couldn't even imagine speaking to my father, and now he just graduated college, moved to Wisconsin. He's working for one of the major car restoration companies in Wisconsin.
That's awesome.
So, yeah, I mean, I look up to him a lot for my sobriety as well, because he didn't have the help that we seek out. He didn't have hams. He never liked to go to NA. He pretty much just did it with like a week's worth of methadone and a dream, essentially. So he's doing well for himself now, and I look up to him for that.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's not easy, because I'm a former opiate addict myself.
Yeah.
I've been clean from opiates for 6 years now, and it took a lot of work. It took a lot of meetings for AA and NA. I didn't know that there were Facebook groups for support, 6 years ago.
Right.
I thought the only way to do it was by going to rehab and then going to AA or NA meetings. So I didn't know that you could have groups where people are supporting you like they're doing hams.
Yeah. And one of the things too is I was always very ashamed of like my problems. So I would go to AA and like for some reason I'd always go to the wrong AA meetings. Mind you, I have been to AA meetings that are fantastic, right? But the ones I ever went to were just terrible. And I remember this is an actually true story. My experience with AA before I found hams was I was in a hotel just wasted, crying my eyes out. And I didn't know what the hell to do. So I Googled like AA groups remote, and I found one, and we get on the call, and it's going great. Like, we're having a conversation. These people seem really empathetic, really nice or whatever. And this lady goes in and says, I smoked a little bit of weed yesterday. I'm in a lot of pain. I couldn't take it anymore. A friend gave me some weed. I smoked it, and it helped a lot. I feel great. And so this lady had been sober for 10 years, and I don't know who was leading the meeting or who was in charge of it, but she had been sober for 10 years, and they restarted her counter at 0. So after that, I was like, never again. I'm not doing this ever again. It was so embarrassing. And you could see the shock on the woman's face, right? Like, she was just completely flabbergasted about it. I don't even think AA is supposed to do that. I don't even think they're in charge of keeping track of like how sober you've been or for how long. But
yeah, they're not supposed to. You're supposed to. You're told to keep your own inventory and not take anybody else's inventory.
Right. And that was the thing too. I was like, I don't even think you're supposed to do that. But I mean, the lady took it to heart. Like, she really like thought she had just like ruined 10 years of sobriety.
Well, that happened to me on my 1 year. One of the groups that I would go to at noon every day, when I tried collecting a 1 year chip, they gave me shit and they were like, yeah, but you still smoke weed. And I was like, yeah, but I haven't had alcohol or drugs in a year now. They're like, yeah, but you're not totally sober because you smoke weed. I'm like, I don't smoke to get high. I smoke it as a medication.
Yep.
They're like, well, you still smoke it. I'm like, fuck out of here. And then I relapsed a month later. You know what I mean?
It's not funny, but
no, it is. It's ridiculous. That's that's what happens, man. Is a month later, on my 13-month anniversary of no opiates and no alcohol, I went out and I bought a 6-pack and I drank 4, and then I dumped the other 2 out just to prove that I didn't need to have all 6.
yeah.
And if I was really an alcoholic, then I would have to have all 6 of these drinks. And it's not like I went out with hard liquor. I used like Twisted Tea is what I bought, because I was never a beer drinker. So I bought a 6-pack of Twisted Tea and drank 4 of them and then dumped 2 down the drain. Now, I wasn't drinking alcoholically. That was May 25th. I went all summer and the fall with being just like a social drinker. And then the winter of that year of 2019 into 2020 is when I started drinking 4 or 5 nights a week. I would take down an entire bottle of Jack in one night. And I woke up on Leap Day of 2020 with a horrible hangover. And I said to my wife, you know, I need to either have a drink right now or I need to quit altogether. And she's like, well, I'll quit with you. And we haven't had a drink in 4.5 years now.
That's really nice.
So and she does recovery Dharma and I do NA. So I do NA I went, I eventually started smoking weed a lot more. My dad passed away last June. I was really depressed and I started smoking weed all day, every day. Mm-hmm. And then I manipulated my my psychiatrist to give me Ativan. And then I manipulated him to give me Valium. And I was overtaking the and Valium, I was snorting. So I wasn't even just popping Valium. I was snorting Valium. And I ended up quitting April 1st. And I figured I'm going to stop smoking weed this time because, you know, I was abusing weed. I wasn't using it as a medication. I was using it to escape. So I quit smoking weed then. And now it's been 5 months since I've smoked or taken benzos. But I haven't had a drink still in 4.5 years. And that's something to definitely celebrate. That's for sure.
And I can relate to that because I when I started smoking pot, again, I guess you could say, it really was like I was ripping dabs like all day long, and I wanted to just like be high all the time. It was like the only way I could be happy. You know, I couldn't walk. I'm in a cane. I can't work, and I've been doing therapy for about 2 years now, and you know, it was one of those things where, are we turning this into an unhealthy coping mechanism? Because any coping mechanism can be unhealthy if you go too far. So it was something really cool to think about, to where now, you know, I don't think I'm going to quit smoking weed anytime soon, but when I do, it's like once a day, usually in the morning or the evening. And if I'm in an excess amount of pain is where I will kind of go overboard. But I even remember, like, I would go to work because I'm an insurance agent, but I would go to work and I just couldn't even put a quote together because I was so freaking high and I couldn't talk. And I'm like, man, this is going a little bit too far. You know, I'm not 16 anymore. I can't afford to just be high all day, every day. I have responsibilities, you know. So I definitely relate to that. Yeah, for sure.
And I'm not saying that you should quit weed anytime soon. I said, you know, I think I needed to, because I had, you know, when you put together some time on other things, like how opiates were ruining my life, and I stopped taking them 6 years ago, and how alcohol was slowly ruining my life. So I stopped drinking 4.5 years ago. I feel like if I would have tried to quit everything at once, it would have been too much pressure on me and I would have imploded. And I think doing them in stages is why, like, I just had to quit gambling because I found myself gambling too much. I just celebrated 30 days free from a bet recently. So, because I found myself betting way too much money on way too many things. It wasn't like a once a week thing. It was an everyday thing that I found myself betting. And I had to quit that. And now I go to Gamblers Anonymous. And I found meetings in Las Vegas because I figure if anyone can quit gambling, it's people in Vegas.
Right.
So I do my meetings out of there. And yeah, man, thank God for Zoom because there's no GA in my area.
Yeah. And I think my main point is like, I have a really bad ability to cope with things. I do not. One of the hardest things about sobriety for me is like just sitting with my emotions. And I live alone now, so that was really tough until I got these 2 cats. And for a while, actually, up until about a week ago, I was drinking a lot of kava. A lot of people ask me what's kava. Well, kava is a drink that they drink in the Pacific Islands. It's almost like do you know how marijuana has like a body high and then you have the mind high with sativas and indicas? So the way I like to describe it is it's like drinking alcohol but it's the body high rather than making you stupid, essentially. And it was great. It was able to get me my anxiety down. I was able to sleep, but I was drinking it way too much. And you have to keep in mind, I was drinking these concentrated kava drinks that were $22 a pop. So, and I was drinking like 5 or 6 a day at one point. So at that point, you know, I just have a really bad habit of I take something that makes me feel good and I just go way overboard because I can't just sit with myself. And it's been about a week since I've had my last kava because at some point I made the realization that I'm talking about right now of like, you know, I just take everything way too far. You know, I'm way too comfortable being comfortable and I've got to stop doing that.
I always say that I'm addicted to the word more.
That's a great way to put it. Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm always saying like, oh man, I need more. I need a little more.
Yep.
You know, it doesn't matter what it is. I'm always chasing the dragon, you know.
I needed more, needed more weed, needed more alcohol, needed more opiates, needed more Valium. I needed more bets, I needed more sex. Anything that was filling a void that I have in me is what I'm addicted to.
Exactly. Yeah. I relate to that really hard. Yeah, absolutely. But, right now I'm just trying to learn how to sit with that void, and actually fill it with different things. So right now I'm writing like crazy. I used to write poetry a lot when I was younger, and ever since I started drinking, I haven't. And I was having a really tough time because journaling is really hard because I kind of just like spill everything on a page and it's not really a coherent thought process. Or I tried, therapy's working a little bit, but still I feel like you can't cram everything in an hour. But I figured it out when my therapist was like, just try to write about it. Try to write a poem about it. We've talked about this so much. And it was the easiest way. It's become a very easy way for me to like put myself into a mindset where I'm doing something within a frame and it doesn't feel so chaotic. So I found that that's been helping me a lot so far.
Yeah, it's good that, your therapist gave you that suggestion. My therapist, when I was quitting everything, like when I quit gambling, she said, you have to like find something else to occupy your time. She was like, have you done your podcast lately? And I said, no, I haven't. She was like, maybe you should get back into doing that again. This way it gives you something positive to do.
Yeah, I'm glad to see you back. I know you were struggling for a bit. And I saw you hadn't been releasing episodes as frequently. So, when I saw your post asking people to come back, you're almost at 200 episodes. That's really cool, man.
Yeah, I took a break, and it was mostly a break because I didn't feel right being early in my recovery and then trying to like speak about recovery. You know what I mean? Like I thought I was too fresh again, and I didn't feel like it would have been genuine. It would have been more like forced. And I started, now that I'm like 5 months sober again, 5 months clean, I feel a lot better because I do have all these different anniversaries anyway of sobriety. And I felt that it was enough time had passed where I could come back on and have conversations with people and be open and honest. Because it's a, you know, when you do these, it's a very freeing feeling because you're really not holding anything back.
Right.
You know, that's how I feel. I don't hold shit back. There's no secrets I keep. I'm very transparent about my recovery.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I find that it's a freeing feeling because I don't feel like I have to like keep track of all the lies.
Right. And honestly, Hams, I'm sure we've talked about Hams, but that was a huge thing with me about Hams. It was a place where I could be in recovery and not have to lie about it, not have to you know, kind of hide from everybody and it was a safe space for me to just get it out. Like, I fucked up again, or, you know, because it wasn't easy for me to like call my mom, which I would do. I would call my mom, be like, damn, I'm drinking again, you know, or they didn't understand how withdrawals worked. So there was a lot of healing in me being able to just like spill it, you know? So I definitely understand that. It was hard though. You know, at first it was just like, it feels like you're just talking just to talk, you know, but ultimately you do find a lot of healing in it.
Now, when did you get into drinking? How old were you?
I think it was 20. I've been drinking for 10 years. I think it was 2014.
How old are you now?
28.
Okay, so you didn't start drinking until you were 18.
Yeah. I don't know. So yeah, it was about 18. So I lived with a girlfriend at the time. I just got given a baby. I was like a single dad or whatever. I let this chick move in with me who was not good for me, but ultimately I was alone with a baby and it just went downhill from there, honestly.
So you didn't like drink at all in high school or anything like that?
Well, yeah, of course I drank, but I mean, it was more like, you know, I was in high school. I went to parties but in high school, it was mostly, I smoked a lot of weed. Like I was a super pothead, but, I mean, I guess now thinking about it, you know, and I was one of the popular guys in high school, you know what I'm saying? So I was going to parties like every other day. I would get smashed. And I actually, you know, thinking about it, that was one of those things, like about a year after I turned 18, it started with, you know, me and her would just party a lot. You know, we would drink a lot because we were partying a lot. Or like we would have a party and there would be like a bottle left over. So it's like, all right, let's kill that bottle. And I mean, I almost remember it like it was yesterday, where I kind of was holding a bottle at my apartment at the time, and I was like 18 or 19 years old. And I was like, I think I have a problem. You know what I mean? I was like, I really want this, and I want it every day. And then for like 5 years after that, I just didn't think about it. You know, I didn't actually think I had as severe of a problem as I did until I think I was 20. It was 2019, so I think I was about 23 or 24 years old, where it was like the first time ever that I just had nothing, right? And it was the worst day of my life. And I didn't know about withdrawals back then. I didn't know that was a thing. I didn't know how addiction worked on the alcohol side. I knew nothing. So it was like the worst time of my life. And I remember I even ended up going to the hospital. I didn't tell him I drank or anything. Well, I kind of did, but you know, I just, from there, it turned into like a fear thing where like, I never want to feel like that again. So, and then it just devolved from there, you know.
No, I can relate. I remember the first time I had withdrawals from opiates. I was 21 years old. No, I was 22. No, I was 21. And I didn't know what was happening. Mm-hmm. I didn't know what I was going through was withdrawals. I genuinely thought I had the flu. And I went home from work early because I wasn't feeling good. And I never put 2 and 2 together until the second time I went through withdrawals.
Yeah.
And then I was like, oh shit.
Yeah.
Like that's what happened before. I now know I wasn't sick that first time. Yeah. I was just out of money and couldn't afford pills.
Yeah.
And this time I learned from that first withdrawal, well, if I just get more pills, I'm gonna feel better.
Yeah.
And I didn't learn any lessons from it. You know what I mean? Like, if anything, it did more harm than good, because the only thing I learned is you got to space your shit out so you don't run out.
Right. Yeah.
Didn't learn my lesson.
Yeah.
Now at 38 years old, I do recognize those things. You know what I mean? I do understand what addiction was or is. I do understand what, there was I'm in a Facebook recovery meme page, and someone posted the other day and they were like, I drink a fifth a day and I'm starting to shake. I haven't had any alcohol. What are some home remedies that I should do to like keep withdrawals from happening? And there was like 60 comments in the first 20 minutes. And every single one of them, including mine, were like, go to the ER. You could literally die.
And that's so weird because if I don't know if the camera can see it, but I do this naturally. So that was a huge part of like the denial process for me too, because people would see me shaking and they're like, "Oh man, you probably need a drink or go to the hospital or something." And I'd just be like, "I've done this my whole life. I always shake." You know what I mean? At first I was never able to put that two and two together. So yeah, it's wild. I didn't know either until I think it finally clicked because I had gotten married in 2019. Okay. And I remember we were going to go get her name changed at the Social Security office, and she stops me. And she's like, "I'm not doing this until you get clean." Right? We're already married, so I don't really know the thought process behind it. But I was like, all right, I understand. I should probably sober up. I go to the hospital, like, immediately after that. And I think I'd stopped. I hadn't had a drink at that point for like 4 hours. You know what I mean? And the doctor looks at the monitor and he's like, we're taking you to the ICU, buddy. And I'm like flabbergasted, right? I'm like, what are you talking about? They had given me like 3 doses of like Ativan, and then they'd given me some like Valium, and yeah, he was like, no, you're going to the ICU. So the first week that I was married, I was in the ICU. It was insane. It was just insane.
How long were you in the ICU for?
I think I was there for 7 days exactly, I believe. And I remember coming home, and my mother-in-law, because we lived with my in-laws at the time, my mother-in-law, "Where have you been?" And I was like, "Oh, I was in the hospital." And she was like, "For what?" And I remember I was like, "Oh, some heart issues." But ultimately, that 2019 was a rough year because when I had done that and I quit, and then I started drinking again pretty severely. And then I ended up, I think we talked about this on my last podcast. I don't remember, but I had a heart attack when I was 24 from the drinking. Like, I was actually destroying my body. I was just deteriorating at that point because I was drinking. You have to think. So, like, I drank Skull 100, first of all, like just the strongest shit I could get. And then, I don't know what, in America we call them handles, but I would drink like 2 of those in the course of like 24 to 48 hours every day. So it was nuts. It was absolutely nuts.
Yeah, to have a heart attack at 24, you're definitely not doing anything right.
No, I definitely was not. It was like an eye opener, but I never stopped. Even though, even my worst withdrawals, or like this year when it was at its worst, I would still drink only like a pint of that. I actually look back to like how I was drinking in 2019, and I consistently wonder how I'm even alive drinking that much. It was insane. I would literally just wake up to take shots and go back to bed. It was nuts.
How was it going through quarantine without drinking, or did you still find ways to drink during
quarantine? Oh, no, I did not go through quarantine without drinking. So to clarify, even though I went to the hospital and then had that heart attack, I just went right back to it every time. So quarantine really, really, really fucked me up because I that's all I did. I mean, I was bored. All I did was drink. I was crammed into this. I was married back then, so we were crammed into this apartment that was a 2-bedroom apartment that was a motel room that was converted. So you have to think we were me, my wife, and 3 children in a 725 square foot apartment, that we're not allowed to leave. So it was miserable for me. It was absolutely miserable.
How old are your kids?
The oldest one is 10, so I have 2 10-year-olds. See, too many kids. But I have 2 10-year-olds, a 2-year-old, a 3-year-old, no, a 1-year-old and a 3-year-old. The other one, I believe, is 6. I actually don't get to see her. And then one on the way. So, yeah.
You get to take it right after your parents.
I know. I know. And I always say it always kind of just happens, but obviously it takes 2.
Yeah. Yeah, it just happens.
I'm getting snipped at the end of the year, so hopefully that does something for me, because yeah, it's wild.
Yeah, financially that's no fun.
Oh no, I'm always broke. It's crazy. Always.
Well, at least you're not spending your money on alcohol now.
That's true. Absolutely.
Instead, you're spending it on cat food.
Cat food, yeah, man. For the podcast, I can show people.
Oh my god!
But man, these have helped. I've had these guys for about 3 weeks. You want to come here? No? Okay. Well, I've had these guys for about 3 weeks now, and it's been hi. It's been a massive help. I think a lot of my issues have been just trying to learn how to be alone.
Oh, I love cats. We have 2 cats. I had dogs my whole entire life. Like my family, my mom had 2 dogs. My sister has 2 dogs. My brother has 3 dogs. Like we're a dog family. And my mom actually has my old dog because I went to rehab and I was like, Mom, watch after my dog for me while I'm at rehab. And then my mom has like a big fenced in backyard. And when I came back from rehab, I moved into an apartment and I said, keep Zoe because I don't want to coop her up into an apartment when she has a big backyard she can run around in. And my mom has kept her ever since. And when my wife and I got together, we lived in an apartment and we live in an apartment now. We don't want dogs being cooped up in our apartment. So now we have 2 cats. They're brother and sister from the same litter. And they're funny as hell. They're cats. They're little assholes. They're assholes.
Yeah.
And the girl cat only likes my wife. The male cat only likes me. Like they have these rules of when they're going to love you. You know what I mean? Like, and they're just funny, man. I never thought I would be a cat person, but here I am, a cat dad.
Yeah. I tried to get a dog too recently, and I'd spend a couple of days with the dog, and I was just like, this is too much responsibility for me. So that didn't work out. And then I ended up getting these cats, and it's been the time of my life. I think one of them has thumbs. Apparently cats can have extra fingers all the time, but it's been fun for sure.
That reminds me, I want a raccoon really bad.
Dude, I would love a raccoon. I actually have a raccoon in my porch that comes to my house every night, and I give him like a hot dog.
That's awesome. I have 3 stickers on my desk I'm looking at right now. It says trash coon, trash can, trash can, trash. What does it say? It's trash can, not trash can. And then another one is saying, if you want me, I'll be in my office, and it's a dumpster.
Yeah.
Like I fucking love raccoons, dude.
Yeah.
When we buy a house, I told my wife, because in Pennsylvania, it's legal to own a raccoon.
Right. Yeah.
So, and they're like $200 for a baby online. I would pay that shit to get a baby raccoon.
I would too. That's actually pretty cheap for a raccoon,
Yeah.
Considering a dog is like $2,000 if you get like a well-bred corgi or something.
And you have to walk them, and you have to do all these things. A cat is self-sufficient.
Yeah.
And a raccoon can be trained to use a litter box. So I have all these reasons of why I want a raccoon, but my wife's like, think of the damage they'll do in the house, though. I'm like, but they'll be so cute.
He'll be doing it looking cute. Yeah.
We'll have to baby-proof the entire house.
I also always love the idea of getting like a skunk, because those are cute too. Like I've watched videos of people with descented skunks and stuff, and they always look so fun. But
that's what my wife said. She was like, I'll get a skunk. And I'm like, okay, well, you get a skunk, I'll get a raccoon, and we'll have these 2 cats, and it'll be a fun house.
Exactly.
Because now we live in an apartment. We have a 3-bedroom apartment we moved into, which is nice because, you know, my wife has MS, so it's hard for her to get around, and there's an elevator in here. And we have enough space in here to where I work from home. So, like right now, where I do my podcast is actually I'm sitting right next to my work shit where I answer calls all day long for a hospital system, making appointments.
Oh, okay.
So I do that from 7 a.m. to 6:30, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. What's really cool about my job is that my managers are really understanding. And when I had my relapse, and when I got clean again back in April, they let me take the entire month off.
Oh, wow.
And I collected short-term disability, and I was out on FMLA, so it didn't affect my job. And then when I came back, they gave me, instead of a half-hour lunch break, I have an hour-and-a-half long lunch break.
Wow.
And I spend that lunch break in my NA Zoom meeting every day at noon.
Yeah, that's really cool.
So I work long days, but I'm off on Wednesdays, and that's when I do my appointments. My wife has appointments. I have therapy on Wednesdays. I have psychiatry on Wednesdays. You know what I mean? Like I make sure that I handle my shit on Wednesdays, so my day off. But yeah, I work 11 and a half hours, but I also get an hour-and-a-half long lunch break in there too. So especially if I have a rough morning, it sucks. But at least I can like unload in a meeting and feel better and then come back to work in a better mindset. Because I used to do AA at noon every day. But I can't talk about my drug use in AA.
Yeah.
They don't like hearing about drugs. And my story is more than alcohol. And I want to be able to talk about drugs too. So I have a sponsor in AA and I have a sponsor in NA, and I'm getting this sponsor in GA. So plenty of people to bounce shit off of and work the steps, because everyone has their own form of recovery. So I'm not here to say you have to do AA or you're going to die, or you have to do NA or you're going to die, because everyone marches at the beat of their own drum. You know what I mean? Like, everyone has different modalities of how they can get clean and sober or stay abstinent or whatever words you want to use. And as long as your life isn't unmanageable today and you're not drowning your sorrows, then it's a good day.
Right. Right. And I find that too. I think I appreciate, I mean, you know, as an addict myself, I'm finding myself like appreciating days a lot more, you know, because even if I'm having a bad day, I think my favorite saying now is, you know, my life sucks, but it sucks sober, you know? So,
yep.
Yeah.
That's awesome, man.
It's definitely been tough. I'm not here ever to say like, you know, this has been easy for me or I'm just, you know, coasting along. It's the worst time of my life every day almost. But, you know, every day that I make it feels a little bit better because I wasted a lot of time, you know, but I'm still 28 years old. I'm not 30 yet, you know, still got a lot of life left. So that's good. And
yeah, you have plenty of time, man. I didn't stop opiates till I was 31, almost 32 years old. Yeah. You know, I'll be 38 at the end of September.
Oh, excuse me.
So you're 10 years younger than me. You know what I mean? And you already have your head on your shoulders more than I did at your age. Granted, you have your hands full more with all those kids, and I have, you know, 3 stepkids now. And they're 21, 19, and 10. And, you know, I'm 38. Well, I'm going to be 38 at the end of the month. So there's still plenty of time for you to learn and grow, because if I can do it at 31, you can sure as shit do it at 28.
Yeah, I think my big regret though, you know, it took so much. Like it basically took almost killing myself for me to finally be like, yeah, I'm done. Because I think had I not gotten in that accident, I'd probably be drunk today, you know. So it's really tough to think about, you know. It really did take drastic things for me to like finally come to the realization that like I just cannot drink at all, you know. Yeah. So that's been tough to cope with, but you know, like I said, I'm gonna, you know, we're gonna make it. So.
Yep, you got this, man. I have faith in you.
Thank you.
Thanks again for sitting down with me. I know we have a 2-hour time difference, so sometimes it's hard to make our schedules work.
Yeah, I'm exhausted. I woke up like 20 minutes ago. So.
Well, I'll let you get some more rest. I appreciate it, bud. Have a good day.
Thank you. You have a great day. Bye.